A corporation is a legal person, but it's more of a concept than an actual thing. A corporation has no brain with which to think, no hands with which to act. It must conduct itself by way of human beings actually doing things. In short, it invests people with agency to act on its behalf. Agency is not just a corporation's concept, it's one of the core concepts of equity law, because normal people too can appoint someone to act as their agent. That is, to do things for them which, for one reason or another, they're unable to do themselves or choose not to do themselves. In this case, Grace Smith and Company were a well-established firm of solicitors in Liverpool in England. The firm had decreased in size, however, and the only principal of the firm was Smith, who was most occupied with the business of being a local alderman. The conveyancing side of the business was left to an employee named Sandals. Mrs. Lloyd approached the firm for advice in relation to her property investments, which were 2 small cottages and the benefit of a mortgage which her late husband had extended to a borrower. Sandals said that the money could be better invested elsewhere, and he had her sign authorities for him to act, and he had her hand over the deeds. He then liquidated all the assets and took the money for himself. Mrs. Lloyd ultimately recovered some of the money, but then sued the firm for the rest, arguing that Sandals had been the firm's agent, so the firm was responsible for his conduct. In response, the firm relied on a precedent which suggested that the firm could only be liable for the conduct of the agent if the firm itself benefited from the agent's misconduct. The court overturned that precedent. Lord Macnaghten said an innocent principal was civilly responsible for the fraud of his authorised agent acting within his authority to the same extent as if it was his own fraud. That, my lord, I think is the true principle. It is, I think, a mistake to qualify it by saying that it only applies when the principal has profited by the fraud. This case confirms that a principal is responsible for the misconduct of their agent, and this is so even when the principal obtains no benefit from that misconduct.